Hey guys, Trin here, and welcome back to my series where I am doing guides to different BL pairings. Now, today's pairing is personally one of my all-time favorites. I would consider this pairing to be in my personal top 5. BossNoeul. I absolutely adore BossNoeul. They have 3 shows together so far, and I hope that they have many, many more. So, if you are interested in BossNoeul, a little bit about them, and then all of the shows that they have done together, well, then let's jump right into it. So, this is Boss's basic information, which you can pause to read if you wish. Now, BossNoeul debuted together in the same show, which is the most adorable thing. So, his debut role was Yu in Love in the Air, and don't worry, the Love in the Air section is coming. But yes, so they debuted together. Boss is also a singer. He's done the OSTs for a couple of different shows, also bringing out his own single called Nine to Fly, which I think has relation to his clothing brand. It's also good to know that Boss has his own clothing brand as well. Now we have Noel's basic information. As I mentioned, he and Boss debuted together. So his debut role was Rain in Love in the Air. Also good to note, Noel has a second personality, as I like to call it. He is also a singer slash rapper, but when he's in that persona, he doesn't go by Noel, he goes by the nickname S2, which is just literally the letter S and then the number 2. He's released a bunch of different singles under that name, so feel free to check both of them out on Spotify. And yeah, I love Noel's music. Noel is very like voice of an angel, but can also spit bars, so I like to say that he's an all-rounder. Now, just before we get into the shows, I have to talk about a person called Mame. Now, I spoke about this in the Fort Pete guide, considering Fort Pete are also a Me Mine Why couple, so I highly recommend checking out my Fort Pete guide as well for this reason, and also if you just also want to get into Fort Pete as well as BossNoeul. But basically, Mame is a really popular author in Thailand, and she got picked up by Me Manwai. Basically, most of Mame's books got turned into television shows because of the Me Manwai company. So, like, they're all made by Me Manwai. But the thing is that all of Mame's books are interconnected. For example, you've got Pukan from The Boy Next World, who is the cousin of Tharn, Thorn, and Thara, who are characters from Tharn type. So, for example, you could be watching a show and there's a character played by Noel, and just for example, because I've not seen every single Me and My Why show, you might be watching a different show with a character that is also played by Noel, but they're meant to be like different people, but it's like totally fine. Like, you kind of just let it go because me and my wife seem to only really be doing MAME stuff at the moment, which is great. Like, I love a lot of me and my wife shows. And maybe I actually explained this a little bit better in the Fort Pete one. My whole point is that, yes, it's all meant to overlap, but in the television world, yes, it still overlaps, but you kind of just don't worry about it and just enjoy the show for what it is. Just because Me Mine Why doesn't have as many artists in comparison to a company, say like GMM TV, for example, that have so many BL pairings coming out the wazoo. My other whole point is that the Me and Why show you should start with actually doesn't matter. If you are interested in the beginning of Meme's universe, you should find out what that show is and start with that one. But if you don't really care, you can realistically start with any show that you feel like. So let's jump into the shows that BossNoeul have done together. So, as just stated, the first show they ever did together was Love in the Air, and it was a semi ensemble sort of show because Fort Pete are also the main roles. So, Boss plays Paiu and Noel plays Rain. So, how they filmed this though is you've got Boss's character and Fort's character that are best friends. Then you have Noel's character and Pete's character that are best friends. And so it is a 13 episode show. Now, the first, I think, 7 or 8 episodes, I think just seven, I'm pretty sure it's seven, like Payu and Rain's story, where BossNoeul are the leads and Fort Pete are the side couple. But then you get to the second half of the show, and BossNoeul become the side couple, and Fort Pete take the leading roles, and it's all about the Propie and Sky storyline. So that's kind of how they filmed it. So, like, the first half of the show is very Payu Rain heavy, and the second half of the show is very Propie Sky heavy. So the blurb says, when clouds in the sky and falling rain tease the two close friends in trouble, Rain and Sky, it takes them to meet Paiu and Propie, who are not only cunning saviors but also guys making storms in the two best friends' hearts. The war of love is about to take place in the warm spring, hot summer, lonely autumn, and cold winter. How would the atmosphere of love be? Which way would their hearts wave and the air full of love take them to? Next is The Boy Next World, where Boss plays Sirius or Sir for short, and Noel plays Pukan or Pooh for short. This one says Pukan has never dated anyone, doesn't know what love would even look like. One day, Sirius, a handsome, cold man nicknamed the Ice Prince, walks into his life. Sirius presents himself as Pukan's boyfriend from a parallel world and tells Pukan he's the most important person in his life. So, this is their second show together. Now, a slight warning with this one, there is the tiniest, and I mean tiniest, little dark romance element to this. It is kind of blink and you'll miss it, like that's how tiny it is. But there is just that tiny element in there. So, just maybe if you really hate dark romance, I would be Googling tags about this show before you started it, but it's a very tiny element, so I think that most people will be fine. Now, this does have the university setting, just like Love in the Air. However, this is very different from Love in the Air. Very, very different. So it's not going to feel as if you're watching the same show twice. The show is set up with Sirius getting into a car accident, but then the first thing he says to his friends when he wakes up is, "Where is Pooh?" Because he thinks that himself and Pooh are boyfriends, even though Pooh has no idea who Sirius is, and the show goes from there. Now, currently airing, we have their third show called Crazy Love Moo. Now, this show, in comparison to the other two shows I spoke about, is a lot more comedic and campy. So, this one is a rom-com, whereas the other two were not. So, you have Boss that plays Fu, and you have Noel that plays Mumu. So, blurb says, when Hiafu, the eldest son of a Chinese Thai family in Kanchanaburi and a full-on hopeless romantic, finds himself trying to win over his younger brother's friend Mumu, who clearly states he's not into fair-skinned Chinese guys like him, things are about to get complicated. The chaos begins when the two unexpectedly match on a dating DP without realizing who the other person is. From rivals to lovers, Their relationship turns into one filled with intense jealousy and undeniable chemistry, yet neither is willing to admit their true feelings. So, this one, like I said, is a lot more comedic and funny in comparison to the other ones. Also, this has a couple of side couples in there because Boss's character is the oldest of three siblings. So you get a side couple with the middle sibling and you get another side couple with the youngest sibling. Boss is the oldest and has a grown up job. The middle sibling is in university and the youngest sibling is still in high school. So obviously, Boss and Noel have that. Boss is out of university, Noel is still in university because Noel is friends with the middle sibling. Now, the middle sibling in university has a love story of his own, and then the youngest sibling has a love story of his own as well. So you do get a little high school element in there, but only in relation to the youngest brother. We are 2 episodes in. This is their current airing show, which just started last week, and I'm absolutely loving it so far. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, but in the best way possible. Also, Kuhart is a side character in this as well. Not as one of the romantic couples, but he is just a side character. He is one of Noel's rivals in the show, so that's also fun to watch and, see that play out. Well, that is it. That is all of the shows that BossNoeul have done together. Hopefully, this helps you out on your BossNoeul journey if you have been wanting to get into them. Hopefully, this video has helped you out with that. So, that is it. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like. Let me know down below if you've got any couples you would like me to make this video for, and I will happily do so. There are a lot of couples I want to make this type of video for, so there'll be more coming. But yep, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.